All right, thanks for coming back to Gasket Case Garage. This is part 4 of the factory Ford 9-inch rear end build series. So what we're going to do next is we're going to stack on some bearings to this differential, and we're going to set up our differential case. So there's going to be some math involved, but that's what we're into next. Stay tuned. You can catch the last video where we set up our pinion support. I'll put a link up here in case you want to catch up on that. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to install the pilot bearing for the pinion in this differential case. And then we're going to press on the bearings to the differential, and then we'll start taking some measurements and looking at our calculations for this rear end, setting the backlash, looking at the tooth pattern. That's all stuff that we're going to cover in this video. That should get our third member all set up, dialed in. We'll show you how to spread the case with the dial indicator to set the backlash. We'll look up some numbers, but that's what we're in for now, so let's get on it. Okay, so the object of the game is to take this pilot bearing for the pinion, and we're going to stick it in this hole. Okay, if you don't have one of these, I try to tell you that your next best effort is going to be a 1 5/16 socket if you've got that. So that fits nicely on there, all the way around, basically edge to edge, and it will not bind. It will not bind in your case at all. Well, these could have different wall thicknesses. So on this one it won't. So it make sure it doesn't bind. We'll leave it at that. So text up, and let's get it in. Got to get a hammer. And when you're driving this in, you'll get a different sound when it bottoms out, and you want to listen for that. Okay, so last tap here sounds different. So you're good there. You're bottomed out. Next thing is this spider ring goes in there, concave side up. So I'll hold it to the angle. You can see concave this way, concave up. Now I gotta press that in there. Okay, so before we stick this in the press, this is going to go on like that. We're going to lube this up, and then we'll use the press to press this on. And it's important that you do the mass of the ring gear is at the bottom. So that gives it a little bit more stabilization. If you do the other side first, you don't really have this additional radius to kind of keep it stable. I mean, you can chalk it up in your whether it's on your vise or your press or whatever, but this is just easier if you keep the mass at the bottom, press this on so you have a little wider base when you flip it over, and your mass is at the top. To me, it helps a lot. It's physics. Check it out. Okay, so if you look at this, the press actually bottomed out because I couldn't get anything on top of there. So I pulled it off. Um, and what you can do is you can take, so we destroyed this old cage when we pulled it off. But the funny thing about these is they sit perfectly on top and you can press that home no problem there. So that's what we're going to do. I just wanted to pull that off so you could see um, that we're not totally seated here at the bottom. But that destroyed previous bearing or flipping that other bearing around or pulling the cage off of it and using that is a nice slick way to get it nice and flush with no issues. Just wanted to pause there to show that. Okay, so let's talk about the 9-inch itself. Um, you can build them pretty stout. There's a lot of flexibility. NASCAR still uses them. Everybody loves them. I mean, they're darn near unbreakable if you build them right. So for a lot of other rear ends, you have to measure from this machine surface to the top of the bearing cab to get the center line, but for 9 inches, the design's pretty awesome with a high point offset below the center line. So this, where your bearing caps go, this machine surface is your actual center line. If you calculate the radius for the bearing, that's your theoretical center line. So you need to calculate the difference between your actual center line, which is, did they machine this surface a little bit high, a little bit low? That's your actual center line versus your theoretical off the bearing. And then that helps you set your pinion depth, whether you need to add shims to the pinion. And so that gives you, these are easy to do. There are some tools that you can use where you can set it in here and get the center. But really on a 9-inch, a simple bore gauge is all you need. Put a flat bar across there. Take this guy out for a second and stick this in here. Get it to the lowest point, some pressure on it, tighten it up, and you get your bore gauge measurement. So you can calculate the manufacturer for the bearings. This is a LM603011 that goes in there, sits in there nice and tight, and that's what we pressed on the other. And you can take a measurement on these. The manufacturer specification is 3063. I mean, I'm getting 306, a little less than 4 actually, so 3 and some change. So we'll use their manufactured specification of 3.063. Okay, so let's do some quick math on that. So their radius, we'll just write it on our tape, is for the bearing radius equals 3.063. Bearing equals 3. Oh, let's scratch that off because my pen's running out. 3.063. That is the bearing diameter divided by 2 to get the radius. .5315. So the theoretical center line or radius is 1.5315. And then we stuck our bore gauge in there. And you should get close. Now this fits a little bit of drag on it right on the bottom. So that's good. And we can measure with the calipers. See here, 1.5315. This is actually right centered. I'm getting right on here. So maybe there isn't much adjustment. Getting 531 between 1 and 2. So 5315. I mean, we're looking at a 0.5 here. So on this case, and just to check this, we can measure, we can move you over here. Set this up. A little bit of drag in there, but it's pretty straight. Get it in straight. And we're looking at 1.5. Get this close for you guys. After the 5, your first tick is 25, then 30, 31, 32. So this is telling me 32, and then these are your decimals. Your 5, your 6 lines up. 5, 3, 2, 5, 25, 30, 32.6. I mean, I had 1, 5. This is 2, 5, 6. The vernier caliper is probably more accurate. So this is your actual. So do your actual minus your theoretical. Get our machinist calculator here. 1.5326 minus 1.5315. So we're looking at 1.1000. 0.0011. So we'll call that, I mean, we're 0.1000. We're 1.1000. I'll call that 1,000. It's a thou diff. So the 1,000th difference, this is actually lower by 1.1000. Okay, so I went ahead and picked up this 9-inch assembly jig. Pretty nice. You can spin things around. we've got 9 inches in 3 of our rigs. So and now that we're making these videos, this was a good come up. So what we're going to do is, now that we know that we're about a thou off, and maybe a thou off, one measuring device says one measuring device says dead nuts, one says we're 1.1 thou diff. So what we're going to do is we're going to plop in our pinion. Okay, so the service manual for these say that the adjustment for the pinion is written in white paint from the factory. So if you look at this in here, see if we can shine a light. Let me get a light. All right. See if I can hold this. So the number on there in white paint is 22. Okay. That's from Ford. 22. And when we measured the center line, we got a difference of 1 thou. Okay, so and on the clean area for the shim that we're looking at, we measured 2.1. So the offset that from the factory for this ring gear, that they wrote on there, 2.2, the center line delta was about a thou. I think the vernier calipers are probably accurate than this when you're jibbling your finger to get your numbers. So that was a thou, and so that gives us this shim is 21. So since we're not changing the gears, we're going to put a 21 in there and check the gear tooth pattern. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so got pinion side on. We're just putting on the caps here to hold this guy in. Just everything's hand tight just to hold it in. We're not moving any gears. We're not doing anything here. Now we're going to get this guy in. Ugh. Ugh. Camera makes it so much harder. There we go. All right, now let's get the cap for that. Pinion side. Now let's get this on. get it started. All right. Okay, so guy's in. Thanks. Turns nice and smooth. Okay, let's turn this guy over. And now we're going to put in our pinion with a 21 thousandths shim. So let me go get a 21 thousandths shim. Sorry, my head's in the way. And there we have it. There we go. We're lined up there. As I said, no O-ring. Let's just check this pattern. Okay. Since we're going to check patterns, we're going to put all the bolts in. I really wish these rebuild kits would give you more options on the shims. I mean, come on. Snug these up. Okay. Flip her over. Okay, so I tried to position everything. I got two cameras, and to kind of explain this. This is kind of the most important part of setting up a rear end. So this is what I think everyone would want to see. So I tried to take my time and explain this. So across this whole video series, this is the most critical part. And I might have to take things off and readjust things a little bit, but I'm going to explain everything, and then then I'll make any readjustments that I need to make, and then we'll get to actually adjusting this. So what we do is, first we have this set up, and these are all loose. We're going to tighten these guys 35 inch-pound or 35 foot-pounds. And then when we tighten this adjuster nut on this side, this adjuster nut, when we turn this, we move the ring gear into the pinion. And when we tighten this guy, we move the ring gear away from the pinion. So what we're going to do is we're going to see what kind of backlash we have. So we already have, you can hear the tick. And you can see the dial indicator move. So we've got 16 thousandths. You can see this guy here from 0 to 16. These are in half thousands, this dial indicator. This dial indicator on the right is also half thousands. I've zeroed everything out. So when we tighten this adjuster nut, we will move this away and will cause this case to spread. And when this spreads, it's going to spread to create 8 to 10 thousandths. So we tighten this guy to move it in to take up this backlash. And then we tighten this guy, and that will move it away and create that spread. And then we lock these guys down to 80 foot-pounds. And then you have your 8 to 12 thousandths. This backlash should be, right now we're at 15. We need to get this to 8 to 12 thousandths. And then again, lock these down, and we're good. And then your differential is set up. And we'll run our gear pattern with the gear marking compound, and we'll hopefully be, if not, you go through the whole thing. Loosen everything up, adjust it, adjust the shims either on the pinion side, and then readjust the nuts so that you get your 8 to 12 thousandths and your pattern looks correct. So that's the high level. So I'm gonna pause these cameras, I'll make some adjustments, and then we'll get there. But this is the most important and the most critical part. So I wanted to take my time, set everything up, explain everything, and then we can dive right in. Okay, well, let's get to it. So in the previous video, we had everything set up, and it was a little crowded, not a lot of room to work. But conceptually, I wanted you to see where, how everything was set. So now we're going to torque these down to 35 foot-pounds. Okay. Okay, so we're set up with just the one dial indicator. If you can see, I don't know if you can see that dial indicator. I might have to move the camera, but it looks like we're about about 10. About 13. From 3. My adjustment only really moves a half thousandth. We could probably take this a hair. we took up that 0.5 thousandth. We're only wiggling within a 0.5 thousandth. Okay, so I think we got us set up. So no tick, we're within a 0.5 thousandth. Dial indicators on each side zeroed out. What I'd expect is when it pushes apart, this might push 4 or 5, that might push 4 or 5, and then we'd be at 8 to 10. Okay, just to test this with a secondary gauge, because I like to sometimes do 2 measurements here. So we're at 71. Actually, it's hard to see. Yeah, 72. To 84. That's 12 thousandths. Oh, that's in spec. That's at 12 thousandths. That's in spec. I was actually hoping for 10. Oh, okay. I'm going to see if we could get 10 out of this. Okay, so we don't have a lot of gear marking compound, so we can't make too many mistakes. Try to set you guys up. So it just so happens we might know what we're doing here on Gasket Case Garage. So here's our wear pattern, and that's pretty good. We're more or less in the center of the tooth on these. Try to back this up. So you can see here and on the back side. See if I can reposition you here. Okay, so here's our contact pattern here and here. And on the other side, which I believe is the coast side, you see the pattern in here and in here. Okay, so you can see the pattern and here and in here. About right there in the middle of the tooth. Same on this one. Right there. On the other side. This is probably our best pattern, but that one's not too bad either. So let's do a few other teeth and see. See the wear in there. This actually looks really good. Okay. We'll tighten these down to 75 or 80 foot-pounds and put these locks in. Then we'll put our O-ring in. We're not moving more than 3 thousandths. We're about a thou. Bouncing between 4 and 5. Oh. Well, that's my wrist popping. Between 4 and 6. So we're not more than 3 thousandths out. I think there's just one spot that it pops up a thousandth. So we're in spec there. So this is good. Torque everything down and we're good. That's it. And that's how you build a third member for a 9-inch. We'll work on the axles, but that's about it. We've got the axles to do, and then this whole thing is all done. Flip this over. Everything turns nice and solid. Got your .008 tick, but everything drives real nice. Everything's within spec. Every last detail. Runout's good. Gear pattern's good. Backlash set. Pinion nuts, case spread, everything done the right way. So, good to go. Here at Gasket Case Garage, we're hoping these how-to videos and DIY tips are helping you out with your build. A lot of these are tips and tricks that we've learned along the way back before the dawn of the internet, when you had to learn things the hard way, which usually meant breaking something. So if this is helping you out, saving you time, hassles, and headaches on your build, hit the like and subscribe button. Whatever you're comfortable with, we'll be wrenching with you along the way.